Going on all, thanks for tuning in once again. Let's talk Beterbiev versus Bivol. What a great fight. Mixed feelings, a lot of people thought Bivol won. So yeah, I'm just going to break that down. I thought it was definitely, a fight of two halves. I thought that Bivol was really fast to start with. I thought Beterbiev may have had knee problems, in the first couple of rounds. I don't usually see him going that slow. He just couldn't keep up with Bivol's pace. And those were clear Bivol rounds, without a doubt. The thing that I didn't like about this fight was how biased the commentary was. There were clear rounds that Bivol won, and there were clear rounds that Beterbiev won. And all we saw was Bivol highlights. I didn't like that. I actually had to turn the volume off, believe it or not. It alters your thinking of how you're judging the fight, when you're listening to this. So I thought that Beterbiev was a bit slower, like I said, to start. And Bivol was very consistent, in the first half of the fight. Very consistent in terms of using the jab. We know he's the better boxer. We know he's the better mover. We know that he's a lot better on defense, but this is where people get confused, Defense doesn't win you fights in boxing. It's about aggression, effective punches. Of course it's good to have defense, don't get me wrong, but the judges are looking at who's the aggressor, who's the guy that has the effective punches. And Bivol started off well, like I said. There was a round in the fight where things really started to change, things really started to turn, and I mentioned this in the breakdown. When Bivol thinks he has Beterbiev, he's going to let his hands go. And he's going to feel the true power. And he definitely did. That was round 7, where he had Beterbiev on the ropes. I believe it was round 7, correct me if I'm wrong. He had Beterbiev on the ropes, and instead of throwing his, 2 to 3 punch combination, he lets his hands go, and Beterbiev catches him with a straight, I believe it was a straight jab, a power jab, and that really shook up Bivol. Then he starts completely abandoning the jab. He just starts double high guard, moves around, throws, 2-3 punch combinations, moves around, but hardly throwing. It doesn't matter if you're not landing clean, as long as you're busy. Bivol could have taunted, he could have, thrown, hit him on the gloves. A lot of Beterbiev's punches were landed on the gloves, but the effectiveness of the punches was still damaging. You look at Bivol's face, you can see blood coming out of the eye, you can see swelling around the face, can't you? So most of the fight, Beterbiev was the aggressor. Most of the fight, Beterbiev was basically getting Bivol in his vulnerable state, on the ropes. We had a double guard. He was basically in survival mode in the championship rounds, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion, leave yours. I thought that Bivol was holding Beterbiev because of the damaging punches. I thought that Beterbiev was clearly the more effective puncher in this fight. Although Bivol did land cleaner shots, I wasn't really hurting Beterbiev. There wasn't Beterbiev, with the double guard up, not throwing anything. It was Bivol moving around. Some rounds wasn't throwing anything at all, just a couple of jabs, couple of crosses, And you can't do that against a guy that's always going to come forward. You have to keep throwing. Think Parker versus Zhang. Parker was throwing, hitting anything, making sure that he was scoring. making sure that he was getting points. Bivol wasn't throwing. He was moving great, don't get me wrong. He was moving great. He was boxing great in the first half of the fight. And I think that had he have been busier, he would have won. It was a very close fight. I had it a slight advantage to Beterbiev, very slight. Would have been happy with the draw. I think, Bivol just couldn't control his emotions, like I mentioned, lets his hands go, pays the price, and then basically trying to survive. And it was a good thing that he had good legs, to keep him in the fight, to keep him on his feet, because Beterbiev was throwing a lot more punches. Although he was missing a lot, he was throwing a lot more, landing a lot of punches, like I mentioned, on the gloves. And this is why I was saying, in the breakdown, that Bivol, he should have one guard up, one guard down, so you can throw right hand leads now and then, get some points, get some effective punches. But we're not used to seeing Bivol box with a double high guard, and that's purely because of the power of Beterbiev. 116, 112 was a joke. That was definitely not how I scored it anyway. But I think that the right man did win. But I would also like to see a rematch. It wasn't convincing enough. It wasn't like a one-sided beatdown. It was a very competitive fight. I thought it would be like a split decision, that sort of fight. You could see it going both ways, but the way that I judged it, I thought that Beterbiev did tick the two boxes, which was aggression and effective punches. Look at their faces at the end of the fight. Look at Bivol not throwing anything. There's not a round where Beterbiev's not throwing anything. He throws more punches in every round, I believe. Couple of rounds, Bivol maybe lands one or two more punches. Then there's rounds that Beterbiev lands more. So the punches landed was pretty much even, but it was a lot of partially landed shots, but they were still effective. They were still effective where Bivol was, starting the fight in the middle of the ring, backing up Beterbiev to being backed up himself majority of the fight, and tying him up in survival mode, not throwing in a couple of rounds, So I think that the right man won. I do encourage people to watch it back. I can see how people do choose Bivol to win, but you got to look at it in the terms of who was the aggressor, which punches were the more effective ones, who was winning the exchanges, in terms of who was getting hurt the most. Winning the exchange doesn't necessarily mean who was landing the most in the exchange. It's what punch was the more effective. So for that reason, congratulations to Beterbiev. I think that he just done enough. I was expecting him to do more. I thought that he'd started really slow. Bivol fought well, boxed great, just couldn't keep it up, Like I said, round 10, I would say, round 10 I still had Bivol winning. It was just his last rounds where Beterbiev wanted it more. There was a couple of rounds where he really had him hurt. And you could see, double high guard, circling around, not really throwing, that's an indication, that's body language of him being hurt. I mentioned that as well as in the breakdown. He's got to have that poker face, taunting and things like that. That may persuade the judges. Although he's hurt, it was important for him to throw punches, and he didn't throw enough, especially the championship rounds. That's my take on it anyway. Leave yours. Great fight, looking forward to the rematch, and look forward to the comments. Feel free to drop a comment, leave your take on it. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.